Everyone has a weird fetish, they just haven't found it yet. So for this video series, I want to explore some deviant sexualities, and explain them to you all to raise awareness and prevent misinformation and fear of these subjects from perpetuating. So first of all, some terminology. A kink is an unconventional sexual fantasy or practice, so some sex stories of bondage or similar things to spice up the sex. A fetish is a sexualized object or body part that isn't inherently sexual, examples being a latex fetish, foot fetish, and so on. A paraphilia is the most broad term, referring to the sexual arousal to atypical objects, situations, fantasies, behaviors, or individuals. Fetishism is a type of paraphilia, and there is no consensus on where to draw the line between kinks and paraphilias. The word fetish has informally been used as a broad word to cover all deviant sexual interests, rather than just objects. And although that is an incorrect usage, it has been deeply ingrained into our language and culture that it might as well be the new definition of the word. So for the sake of the video, I'll be using the broad, informal definition of fetish as any deviant sexuality, but just be aware that there isn't officially the correct usage of the term. This video will specifically cover the subject of paraphilias that have been accepted by the medical community first, before I move on to newer and more obscure ones. Unlike fetishes and kinks, paraphilias are the most scientifically covered, and are written about in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. There's also a distinction between paraphilias and paraphilic disorders. In order to have a disorder, they must meet qualitative and negative consequences. Otherwise, they have a paraphilia or paraphilic behavior and no diagnosis. This is because mental illness is defined by distressing or impairing the individual or causing harm to others. If it doesn't cause substantial problems, then it shouldn't require clinical attention. There is also optional, preferred, and exclusive paraphilias. Another important distinction to make is that there is no consensus yet on what causes these feelings. A popular theory, and one that I lean toward in my own experience, is that it comes from classical conditioning. Our minds slowly learn to attribute sexual arousal with different things over a long period of time. Since our sexual mind is very dumb and impressionable and can get aroused by pictures and shapes that might resemble people, if someone has an experience that pairs a stimulus to sexual arousal, it can create an association in the mind. This theory would mean that this type of sexuality, separate from sexual orientation, is more flexible to change over time rather than being genetic. However, no one can scientifically confirm anything at this point, so it's unfair to assume this is true for everyone. So here we go. The DSM-5 lists 8 paraphilic disorders as important because they're relatively common and relate to a possible crime. These are voyeuristic disorder, exhibitionistic disorder, frotteuristic disorder, sexual masochism disorder, sexual sadism disorder, pedophilic disorder, fetishistic disorder, and transvestic disorder. So let's start with voyeurism, which is spying on others performing sexual acts without them knowing. These acts are the most common and potentially law-breaking sexual behaviors. Based on non-clinical samples, the highest possible prevalence of voyeuristic disorder is approximately 12% in males and 4% in females. Exhibitionism is exposing their genitals to unsuspecting people or in public settings. The highest possible prevalence for exhibitionistic disorder in the male population is 2 to 4%. Frotteurism is the touching or rubbing against a non-consenting person. These acts may occur in up to 30% of adult males in the general population. Sexual masochism is undergoing humiliation, bondage, or suffering for pleasure. Its comparison paraphilia is sexual sadism, which is inflicting humiliation, bondage, or suffering to pleasure. The two are very closely tied together, and when that happens it's called sadomasochism. This also exists under the umbrella term of BDSM, which is what most people think of when they hear fetish or kink, thanks to media like 50 Shades of Grey misrepresenting them to take advantage of how scary and shocking it looks without context. It is a combination of BD, DS, and SM, but is used as a catch-all phrase covering a wide range of similar activities. The reason why it brings such scary imagery is that fear is a big part of the sexual appeal, as many of these people get turned on from the excitement of being abducted or sexually controlled. The people in control are doms, for dominance, and the people who are losing control are subs, or submissives. Some BDSM play include, but are not limited to, animal roleplay or pet play, bondage, breast torture, cock and ball torture, pussy torture, erotic electrostimulation, edge play, which is all about dangerous activities like strangling, fire play, knife play, gunplay, and so on, flogging, which is beating a person with whips, lashes, and rods, golden showers, urinating, paraphilic infantilism, sexual roleplay, spanking, torture, and tickle torture. BDSM ties into some other paraphilias, which I will list. Algolagnia, attraction to pain to the erogenous zone. This differs from sadomasochism, which is more about subjective and psychological pain than actual pain. Asphyxiophilia.
Magic chokeslam!
Biastophilia, which is the attraction to the idea of rape and rape play. BDSM communities are well aware of some of the risks that go into these practices, and many have adopted the motto of safe, sane, and consensual, commonly abbreviated as SSE. When playing out these scenarios, the submissive is the one who's really in control, since they set the hard limits and have a safe word to explicitly say when they no longer consent and want to stop. Pedophilia is the sexual focus on children before puberty. The highest possible prevalence of pedophilic disorder in the male population is approximately 3 to 5%. Pedophilia is separate from hebephilia, attraction to early adolescent children around 11 to 14, and ephebophilia, attraction to mid to late adolescent, around 15 to 18. Fetishism is an attraction to using non-living objects or a specific focus on non-genital body parts. The fetish objects are not limited to articles of clothing used in cross-dressing, like in transvestic disorder, or devices specifically designed with the purpose of genital stimulation, like a vibrator or a fleshlight. Transvestic paraphilia is engaging in sexually arousing cross-dressing. If they are aroused by the fabric, material, and garments, then it is fetishistic and decreases the likelihood of gender dysphoria. If they are aroused by the thoughts of the self as female, this increases likelihood of gender dysphoria and is autogenophilia, the paraphilia of a man being sexually aroused by the thought or image of himself as a woman. The majority of males with transvestic disorder identify as heterosexual, although some individuals have occasional sexual interaction with other males when they are cross-dressed. That is all 8 paraphilias talked about in the DSM, so now I'll cover the rest of the paraphilias that have received some level of scientific attention in no particular order. So first of all, there's a good amount of paraphilias that deal with imagining oneself as another thing, which all have the auto prefix, such as autoandrophilia, a female imagining herself as a male, autogenophilia, a male imagining himself as a female, autopedophilia, the image of herself in the form of a child, autozoophilia, the image of herself as an animal, and so on. So just note that I'm skipping those, assume a lot of these have an auto version of them. This eroticism for imagining oneself as another can be called erotic target location error, or erotic target identity aversion. I just think it's a funny term, like you're trying to land a cum shot and get an erotic target location error and miss. ETLE has a connection to gender dysphoria and species dysphoria as well as paraphilic infantilism. This has a clear connection to a transformation fetish. Transformation is common in kids shows and media so you can get people interested in a young age. And in transformation scenarios, there's a dom-sub dichotomy with transformee being the sub and the person initiating it the dom. Some of the appeal can be attributed to the fear and pain from it for the subs, the idea of exploring a new body sexually. Sometimes their minds regress like in an animal transformation, and they're stuck in a pet form forever, which really appeals to the dom who gets new sex plaything. Connects to bondage or entrapment, hand, feet, paw fetishes, and a furry fetish. Is connected to phonophilia, which is turning a human into a piece of furniture. Again, dehumanizes people or rubbing genitals on them without awareness is attractive. Connected to gallimatophilia, the sexual attraction to a statue, doll, mannequin, or other similar figurative object. Connected to doll fetishism and object sexuality. Object sexuality is coined by a Swedish woman named Agita Rita Brenna, who married the Berlin Wall in 1979 and shares the last name with the wall. After which it was torn down, her affections have shifted to a nearby garden fence. Agita Rita is good friends with Ulrike Eiffel, who shared an affection with the Berlin Wall until she married the Eiffel Tower in 2007, which changed her last name as well. She believes her relationship with her competition beau helped her become a world-class archer. These two women and Oliver Arndt, a man in relationship with a train, are the founders of OS Internationality, or ObjectumSexuality.org, an organization for those who develop significant relationships with inanimate objects. You can check out the website for more info, where it shares some ideas as to what factors cause this, such as having mostly women and a number of object sexuals with Asperger's syndrome. Hybristophilia is an attraction to highly dangerous criminals. It affects more women than men. Some of them also have a background of sexual or physical abuse. Other experts speak of the Bonnie and Clyde syndrome, where the hybristophiliac is attracted to notoriety and controversy surrounding the criminal and want to share the fame. Calvophilia is an attraction to jesters, clowns, and mimes. Sometimes known as bozophilia, calophilia is the opposite of calophobia, or fear of clowns. Calophiles often have a particular type of clown that they like, such as a scary, silly, or sexy clown. Calophiles may be attracted to the physical look of clowns and also the acts associated with them, which they may adopt in a sexual nature, such as spanking a rubber chicken or smashing a pie into someone's face while having intercourse. Erotophonophilia is an attraction to murder, often to strangers, also known as daclacnomania or lust murder, and is related to sadistic homicides. Related to necrophilia, which is an attraction to corpses, a paraphilia of the serial killers Jeffrey Dahmer and Dennis Nilsen. Greek historian Herodotus alluded to suggestions that Greek tyrant Periander had defiled the corpse of his wife, employing a metaphor. Periander baked his bread in a cold oven. Necrophilia has also been observed in animals like squirrels, species of arachnids and insects that practice sexual cannibalism, as well as penguins, lizards, and mallard ducks. Formicophilia is being crawled on by insects, related to tickle fetish, and is a form of zoophilia, an attraction to non-human animals. Differs from bestiality, which is a sexual act itself, which is not always the direct result of zoophilia, as some research shows that zoophilia is rare among people who engage in sexual acts of animals. Most common animal is a dog, and second most common is a horse. Exclusive zoophilia is considered rare, as most people are also attracted to humans. Sexual arousal from watching animals mate is phonoiphilia. Paraphilic infantilism, which has considerable overlap with diaper fetishism, goes under another umbrella term, ABDL, which stands for Adult Baby Diaper Lover. Again, if we're going to use a Dom submodel, it can create erotic humiliation, loss of control, especially if not controlling bladder, but also feelings of safety, security, affection, carefreeness, and so on. It's possible that being in a diaper triggers dormant memories of early childhood, and the thick, warm fabric against the genitals give constant physical stimulation. Erotic humiliation is common in BDSM, AVDL, and roleplays, where the sub gets humiliated and the dom gets pleasure in humiliating. So now let's cover the messy paraphilias, which include salivophilia, which is an attraction to soiling or dirtying others or objects, which is commonly manifested in fetishes of defacing figures, called hot gluing, and images, known as a tribute, of people, related to bukkake, which is a lot of people jerking off onto the same person, wet and messy fetishism, which is not specifically sexual messes, but food, mud, slime, etc., coprophilia, a paraphilia for feces, also known as scatophilia or fecophilia, connection to urophilia, urine, and oromashi, which is arousal from a full bladder and or wetting oneself, or having to happen to someone else, and all these together is called water sports. Emetophilia is an attraction to vomit. Some emetophiles practice the fetish by having a partner vomit from performing deep throat oral sex. Vomiting on a person is known as a Roman shower, related to erotic humiliation. Eproctophilia is an attraction to flatulence or farts, and mucophilia is an attraction to mucus. Feederism is an attraction to feeding, eating, weight gain, also known as fat fetishism. Acrotomophilia is an attraction to amputees, which is a counterpart to apotenophilia, the sexual interest in being an amputee, related to abasiophobia, which is a psychosexual attraction to people with impaired mobility, especially those who use orthopedic appliances like leg braces, orthopedic casts, or wheelchairs. Devotism is an attraction to people with one or more physical disabilities, connected to teratophilia, an attraction to deformed or monstrous people. Macrophilia is an attraction to giant beings, or the imagined growth of beings. It's a companion to microphilia, an attraction to small beings. It is another form of a dom and sub relationship. Most macrophiles are men, using terms like giantess for a female giant. Psychologist Helen Friedman theorized that it isn't common for women to have macrophilia since men are already viewed as dominant and powerful in our society. Partialism is a part of fetishism that has an attraction to specific non-genital parts of the body, which may include podophilia, a foot fetish, the most common fetish and more prevalent in men than women. Oculophilia, eyes and activities directly relating to and or involving the eyes, connected to oculolinctus, which is licking the eyeballs, which has been said to be popular with adolescents in Japan in 2013 leading to eye infections. Masculagnia is an armpit fetish. Masophilia is an atypical sexual interest focused on female breasts, connected to lactophilia, which is an attraction to breast milk. Pygophilia is a butt fetish. Nasophilia is a nose fetish, sometimes associated with Pinocchio or transformation into another creature's nose, like a pig snout, relates to humiliation. Trichophilia, which is a hair fetish, most commonly head hair, pubic hair fetishism is formatus, related to haircut fetishism. Albinophilia is a navel or belly button fetish. In 2012, it was the second most popular fetish search on Google. It is said that ice on the navel region can produce erotic sensations. During 1970, a short-lived belly button magazine had descriptions of penetrative belly button intercourse and sexual images of physical acts towards belly buttons. Albinolagnia is a belly or stomach fetish, often coexist with fat fetishism and pregnancy fetishism. Queerophilia is a hand fetish and relates to fingernail fetishism. Now the rest of these, I don't have a lot to say, so I'm just going to quickly skim through them. Telephone scatologica, obscene phone calls, connected to narratophilia, obscene words. Dentrophilia, attraction to trees. Gerontophilia, attraction to elderly people. Hematolagnia, drinking or looking at blood. Kleptophilia, stealing, also known as kleptolagnia in its sexual form or kleptomania. Mechanophilia, Cars or other machines, also mechaphilia, connected to robot fetishism, gametophilia, and object sexuality. Menophilia, menstruation. Morphophilia, particular body shapes or sizes. Olfactophilia, smells and odors emanating from the body, especially the sexual areas. Pictophilia, pornography or erotic art, especially pictures. Piquerism, piercing the flesh of another person, most commonly by stabbing or cutting the body with sharp objects, more common of women than men. Pyrophilia, fire. Somnophilia, sleeping or unconscious people, possibly what Bill Cosby has. Symphorophilia, witnessing or staging disasters such as car accidents. Cuckoldism, watching one's partner have sex with someone else, possibly without the third party's knowledge. And finally, incest, which surprisingly isn't considered a paraphilia, but I'll include it as another thing some people are into. Now, I just covered everything Wikipedia has on the subject, and we'll move on to explaining some newer stuff that I've seen in my internet travels. So, let's see. Hypnosis or mind control? Self-explanatory. Cartoony squishings. Okay. Hyper refers to abnormally large body parts like penis, breasts, ass, muscles, etc. Not even largest like naturally possible, but larger than what is possible, like unhealthily, unrealistically big. Mind break. A fetish where the receiving end, more often female than male, experiences such a high degree of sexual pleasure the mind goes into a state of severe stupidity. And in this state, they would lose the ability to think clearly and register information such as pain. Gokun, drinking semen from a container. Public use is a fetish for people who are set up in public to be used for sex, most commonly in a form much like a glory hole. So you might see a person's mouth or ass or vagina sticking out of the wall with writing on the wall, describing the person or showing the price, and the person's body is covered in fluids or writing. In more extreme forms, they are treated like toilets or urinals for people to use. Futanari refers to attraction to females of a penis. Now, I will address the meme question of is Futa gay or are traps gay? Of course, the realistic answer is depends, but I'll say no, and here's why. This video is an hour-long presentation where the man explains some interesting studies on sex and how erotical illusions constrict the sexual mind. This is because the sexual part of our primitive reptilian brain is very, very dumb and very, very impressionable. It is inherently irrational and only understands vague concepts that tell when it's most beneficial to procreate at that exact moment. That's why we can masturbate to porn. The sexual mind can't tell the difference between images on a screen, or imagination as that's what's really being used, and a real person. The video explains the difference between male and female sexual minds, and studies show that these sexual minds are the same for both hetero and homo male and females, so being gay doesn't give one sex the sexual mind of the other sex. There are 4 things both heterosexual and homosexual men find attractive in a partner: chest, butt, feet, and penis. The truth is that when heterosexual men watch porn, they pay attention to the penis more than women who watch porn, as the image of an erect penis tells the sexual brain that it needs to get erect. So when a heterosexual male sees an image of an attractive female with a penis, they aren't thinking about what makes a man attractive. The sexual mind just takes the imagery of an erect penis and the attractive woman separately, since the sexual mind takes cues separately. And for the record, straight people can be turned on by gay sex subconsciously, and the same goes for gay people and straight sex. So I hope we can end that discussion. When talking about sexuality, nothing is in absolutes. You should have realized that at some point in this video already. Some other examples of erotical illusions covered in that video are facials, which combine psychological cues with visual ones. Centaurs and humanitarias are another erotical illusion with the 4 legs but regular top half of the body. This also explains the tar phenomenon in the furry community with fox tars and other tars. So let's cover furries and anthropomorphic animals. Anthropomorphism is the attribution of human traits, emotions, or intentions to non-human entities and is considered to be an innate tendency of human psychology. For example, if you slap some eyes in the hat on a plant, then the plant is anthropomorphized and you inherently feel more empathy for it. A furry fetish is an attraction to anthropomorphic animals. Now, some of you might be wondering if furries relate to zoophilia, like maybe it's a gateway drug to a slippery slope to bestiality. There's a reason the definition for zoophilia is an attraction to non-human animals. If you saw it as opposed to what, human animals, then you were correct. Furries are the human animals. Of course, it differs a lot depending on what furry character we are looking at, but let's look at Robin Hood and Judy Hopps for example. Now compare them to an actual fox and bunny. Now tell me, what do they look closer to, a human or an animal? Only humans have this bipedal structure. Human feet are unique to humans, so they can walk like we do. So furry feet is weirdly stretched out. Humans don't have hind legs, so a lot of furry art gives the characters human legs instead of hind ones. Most female mammals have breasts in the crotch area so they can breastfeed their children better. But furry females are given human boobs. Fingers and opposable thumbs, heads readjusted 90 degrees and slapped onto the human neck. The way I see it, they're just weirdly colored and hairy humans with animal heads slapped on wrong. Even when looking at the animal faces, they pretty much always have human eyes. Notice how most animals have a large iris, and don't really use the ability to move the iris in any direction to see things better. That's a very human trait to make up for not having as versatile of a neck as other animals. It's why humans are able to express so much body language with our eyes. Look at what eyes cats have in Disney films and the cats in BoJack Horseman with more realistic cat eyes. It's kinda creepy. An amazing example of this is in Finding Nemo, where all the fish have human eyes, but when the shark smells blood, his irises expand. It looks less human and more scary. And when we need to relate to him again, his eyes return to human. It's such a powerful technique that in a lot of media, all you have to do is change the eyes to make something horrifying. Covering the eyes with dark sunglasses or masks or helmets creates the same feeling of being inhuman or unrelatable. That's why in a lot of media they don't give enemies a face, or in comics they give the costumes wide eyes. Animals with snouts are given much shorter snouts to be more like human noses. You get the idea. I can go on and on, but these just aren't animals. They are human animals. A lot of visual tricks to humanize them that you might not really think about, but that's what the sexual mind is attracted to. And the little stuff that is unique to animals people find attractive when taken off of animals and give it to humans. Like I said before, exclusive zoophilia is rare, and most people who have zoophilia are also attracted to humans. Porn of animals that's more realistic and barely anthro is called feral porn, which is more niche and rare compared to the broad appeal of anthro furries. Pokophilia for Pokemon and Clop for My Little Pony have a lot of anthro art with human feet and hands and boobs and so on, and there exists porn that is more accurate, but even then, it's still too human and abstract to be all animal. For ponies, they have humanish noses instead of long horse face, humanish hair, very large head in proportion to the body, human eyes, human clothes and accessories, hooves? You get the point. I could do the same for a lot of Pokemon who are vastly different and abstract from real animals. Porn is art, and art is all about abstraction. Okay, I really need to get back on board, so let's go to something else. Plushophilia is an attraction to stuffed toy animals, or plushies. Inflatables too. I don't got much to say, other than that custom plushies are more expensive than you think. High quality life-size stuff will be over $1,000. Aeromorphs are anthroplanes and other vehicles and objects. Mpreg is male pregnancy, which only exists in romantic fanfiction with a pair of two males and is written by a girl, because they need a baby in the story. Of course, it spread from there and an online Mpreg community was born. There's also butt preg and boob preg, apparently. Vorophilia, also known as vor, is the idea of one person or creature eating or being eaten by another. Soft vor is swallowing whole and isn't painful, while hard vor might involve killing the vored person as they get chewed or go through the digestive process. This is of course related to the infamous anal coming out party, because there ain't no party like the anal party, because the anal party don't stop. There's also cock vor, horn vor, and tail vor, and soul vor, okay? Inflation, also known as Dobsonphilia, named after our Lord and Savior Andrew Dobson, is an attraction to people being inflated, sometimes with a pump or similar object. You know, like Dig Dug, sometimes done in real life with inflatable suits. For a considerable amount of people, this fetish began with Violet turning into a blueberry and Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Now let's talk about people or groups with very specific interests. There's a cult in Russia that worships Gadget from Chippendale, which probably isn't even fetishistic, but, you know, worth noting. Crystals86 is a man who had a friend named Roger with Marfan syndrome. People with Marfan syndrome tend to be very tall and thin, with long arms, legs, fingers, and toes. They also typically have flexible joints and scoliosis. So all his art is of him and his friend Roger and some anthro ponies getting treated by crystals to make their fingers get longer, just like Marfan syndrome. He stopped posting art to DeviantArt once his friend Roger died in 2015. Now let's talk about Mr. Brown the Bear. You know what's the best part about farts? Dumps. Indeed, farts and scat make an excellent combo. A quote from Mr. Brown the Bear. Mr. Brown the Bear is a moderator of the Fugue crew. He's a scatologist, and he loves to study feces. Plus, he's a professor that teaches scatology 101 at Thomas Crapper University. He was once a bear cub. He went potty training every day. When he made his first boom boom, he glanced at it. Furthermore, he sniffed his own boom boom. His father was once a scatologist himself. And tell him a few things about scat. Mr. Brown is intelligent, knowledgeable, and has an IQ of 500. He was given praise by Thomas Crapper University teachers and staff, for he is considered the best scatology teacher in history. Not only is he into feces, he's also into farts, too. And in fact, the best part about feces is when people fart while crapping. As Mr. Brown states, farts and scat is the best combo to turn a person on. Also, Mr. Brown is best friends with Principal, longtime pal, Heavy Duty the Rhino. Back at home, while he was waiting homework, he checked his email via internet. There, he found one standing out from the other emails, which is the Few Crew invitation. After reading about the Few Crew, he became satisfied. Of course, he did join for the farts, but also for the scat, because equally, he loves listening to the sound of toilet farts and flops. Trivia, the book is carrying is a portmanteau of the words scat and Alice. And so, Seven and the Few Crew would never be the same. There were these people who dressed up like Goofy. This man must be disposable feminine pad. In his About Me, he says, I am a guy that's becoming a pink disposable feminine pad, and later on, I'll be pressed against a soft vulva for a woman's period. I'm looking for more open-minded friends who are comfortable with this fate for me. I've wanted to become a pad since I was 10 years old. My 2013 New Year's resolutions: to get my first legal name changed to pad. 2. To start preparing for life as a feminine pad. 3. To set a world record for having the largest pad collection. 4. Becoming a pink, disposable, feminine pad. Currently, I own 1,407 pads and 57 packs of pads towards setting a new world record for the largest pad collection. I'm planning to donate myself and all the pads in the collection to women in need of pads once I become a pad. My religion is Yoni Tantra. Yoni Tantra is a worship of the divine Yoni. Yoni means vagina in Sanskrit. I worship both the vulva and the uterus by preparing myself to be used for a sacred period as a pink, disposable feminine pad. Good for you. Big knee lover is a big fan of knees. Snorting people? Okay, sure. Foreverly old tied up and deletized. A man who goes by the username of RefA15 is all about cartoon animals' body parts becoming deli stuff like ketchup blood, bologna ear, and so on. They are foreverly tied up, mummified, and enjoying it. He's gained some internet popularity from the absurdity of his images. Jacob Yell, a core member of DeviantArt, is all about the duck sirens. From an episode of DuckTales where the duck sirens are singing to trap sailors, but in his art, the duck sirens are singing to turn other people into duck sirens. And oh man, there's a lot of art of duck sirens. A lot. This one is about turning into Twix. Back in the old internet, we had a website for gay male denture fetish. Pretty cool. Tank Healer BDSM is a fetish for the dom-sub relationship of healers and tanks in multiplayer video games. People in Overwatch are playing Mercy, a healer character, and then the tank player who's playing Long will work with the healer to win a match, and it turns both of them on. It's all about getting off to the idea of being treated like a heel slut. And finally, forcing girls to switch to Linux. Something I'm sure would turn on a lot of free software enthusiasts like Richard Stallman. So congratulations! We've covered over 100 fetishes. So now I should remind you that people don't get a disorder diagnosis unless it causes a person distress, anxiety, obsessions, guilt, or shame about these paraphilic impulses or leads to non-consenting harm to others. The sexual mind is so incredibly stupid and amoral, it can be convinced to like anything. Everything. I hope you learned something about human nature or even yourself from watching the video. This is Force Via Kotopa, signing out.